Welcome to the Michigan USC post-game edition of the Five Star Zone. I'm your host, Rico Beard, and Michigan comes away with a victory 27-24 thanks to the touchdown that they scored late in the game. They rolled the back of Kalel Mullings, and the Wolverines upset the Trojans in a game that a lot of people did not see coming. They made the quarterback switch to Alex Orji, but at the beginning of the game, it had a different feel to it because USC could not move the ball. USC could not get any offense going. As a matter of fact, the Wolverine defense, Grant and Graham really stepped up and just led that defensive line. The Trojans had nothing. They could not run the ball. As a matter of fact, they had negative rushing yards late into the first half where there was just nothing there. They finally was able to drive down the air to kick a field goal. Michigan goes into halftime up 14-3. And it kind of looked like it was going to be Michigan's game to be had. Michigan, it felt a lot like that Penn State game from last season where they were just going to run the ball. Orji was not successful passing the ball. 7 of 12 for, 32 yards. Normally does not get it done in the Big Ten, but it worked for Michigan. I saw some stat that, Michigan's like 6-0 in games that they pass the ball for less than 100 yards. It's ground and pound. It's lean on your defense. Now, is that going to be the way that this team has to win games for the rest of the season? Yeah. Orji's not the quarterback that you thought he was going to be. He's still having problems really passing the ball, throwing the ball deep. It took USC about a half to realize that he's not going to challenge them. I think they were respecting the big play. They were respecting that, and Michigan was able to just gash them for big-time plays, big-time runs. As I said, Mullings had 2 touchdowns. Donovan Edwards gashed him for 1. Even Orji picked up a lot of rushing yards. He had 48 rushing yards. They were able to just have basically a 3-headed monster. I do think this is going to be the formula for this Michigan offense going forward. Now, is it sustainable? I don't think so, but you know what? It worked in this game. You defeated USC, who was ranked number 11 in the country, and for Michigan, it kept you in pace for one of the playoff spots. Now, you're going to be challenged later on in the year, but you know what? That's later on in the year. Right now is right now, and right now you're sitting at 3-1 in the Big Ten. Your next games coming up are Minnesota at home and then at Washington. 2 games, and then at Illinois. I look at Minnesota, and I don't think you're going to have a problem. I think this type of offense will work against Minnesota. It's not going to be fun football. You're not going to see big touchdown plays unless you see a running back break it for a long run, or you see Alex Orji break it for a long run. What helped you in this game was the defense score. Will Johnson had another pick 6. He baited Miller Moss into that pick 6. Later down the line, when you play better teams, if you're going to play this style, you're going to need a special teams or you're going to need a defensive score. But for your next 2 games, this will work. You cannot turn the ball over, and you got to have a lot of patience. And Sharon Moore is showing me he can exhibit that patience. I mean, you're able to run the ball against USC, and USC, the defense played pretty good, except for the last drive where they went back to playing USC football and Mullings broke through 2 tackles, gets it all the way down, and eventually they bled the clock down, and on the 4th and 2, they score. Michigan finished with 290 yards rushing. That's what you're going to see, is you're going to see this team rush for about 300-plus yards a game. Problem is you cannot win games with 32 yards passing. The problem for Michigan will be in games that you fall behind. Can you then throw the ball to catch back up? That's the big key. Now, fortunately for Michigan, you really only fell behind once, and it wasn't by a lot where you had to abandon the run game. So long as you can stick to the run game, you're going to always be in every game because your defense is good enough. They're going to keep you there. You contain that USC offense. You contain Miller Moss, and you contain the running game. USC had nothing. Their first couple of drives, they started off in bad position, and that's where it goes. You run the ball and you punt it, and you put them and you pin them back on your goal line. That's what Michigan did a great job of doing. But, yeah, defense, 4 sacks. They had, 24 pressures on Miller Moss throughout his 55 pass attempts. He never had it easy. He started hearing footsteps near the end of the game. So for your Michigan, This is the new way that you're going to have to do things. It's not exciting. It's not fun. And I don't know how sustainable it is, but I think at least for the next game against Minnesota, it's sustainable. Then you go on the road to Washington. It'll be the Wolverines' first true road test. I mean, honestly, I don't know how they managed to play every game in September at the Big House, but you know what? I ain't mad at you. Good for you. But yeah, this way will work. When you face some of the better teams, that's going to be problematic. But right now, so long as you do not fall behind by 2 scores, you don't have to abandon the run game, and you run this style, and this style will work. Fixing Orgy, I don't know. He's got an arm. He doesn't have accuracy. It reminds me a lot of, Joe Milton and Denard Robinson, where they could run, and they were always a run threat, but they were never really a passing threat. Like I said, it took USC about a half to realize this guy's not going to pass the ball on us, and that's when USC came back, and they forced Michigan into a bunch of 3-and-outs in the second half until pretty much that game-winning drive. It's going to be problematic, but it works, and that's going to be the offense that's going to work for you. So that's how I see it. Once again, and by the way, Kalel Mullings, that's your main guy. He's RB1. He's going to be the focal point of this offense. He should start games. Donovan should just come in and spell him. He's more of a threat. He can break tackles. You saw how he can break tackles on that was like 62-yard run he had late in the game where he was wrapped up and kept the legs moving, and he kept going. It's that toughness that he exudes. That's your guy. I think I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. He's RB1. So for your University of Michigan, you upset the USC Trojans at home. You're 3-1. You kept pace for one of those playoff spots. You kept pace to being one of the top 3 teams in the Big Ten, because I do think the top 3 teams in the Big Ten will make the playoffs. So for right now, mission accomplished. You got the job done. Was not pretty. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but a win is a win. And guess what? You never apologize for a win. That's your Michigan USC post-game wrap-up. I'm your host, Rico Beard. Thanks for watching the 5 Star Zone.